has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes, from the smallest towns to the very largest cities. One's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime here is 1 in 26. Within Florida, more than 92% of the communities have a lower crime rate than West Palm Beach. In the year of 2007, the city of West Palm Beach had 4,700 thefts, 1,600 burglaries, 43 rapes, and 12 murders. But specifically the Dunbar Village housing projects located in West Palm Beach. Built in 1940, the apartment buildings in the community are set up in an Army barracks-style configuration. This community was one of the first public housing sites in Florida for low-income families, with at the time in 2007 the rent ranging from $200 to $700 a month. In 2007, a 32-year-old mother and her 12-year-old son fled Haiti. With no money, they landed in Dunbar. The two almost instantly became targets for crime, standing out as Haitians among the mostly American-born blacks in the housing project. Her car and son's bicycle were stolen and their house had been ransacked. But on June 18, 2007, roughly between 9 o'clock and 9:30 p.m., before it began to get dark, the 35-year-old mother received a knock at her front door, and it was a teenage boy trying to tell her she had 2 flat tires. Her car had been previously stolen, so she had been borrowing a friend's truck. She walked out and realized she did not, and when she began to walk back inside of her apartment, 2 young teens got in front of her and pulled out a .45 caliber handgun and a AR-15 assault rifle. They demanded money from her, but she kept telling them she had no money. They rushed her to inside of her house that took her upstairs to a separate room from her 12-year-old son. They demanded money again, but she kept pleading with them that she did not have any. They demanded her to take her clothes off and then began to rape her. At the time, there were only 3 teens in her apartment, then 7 more rushed into her apartment masking their faces with white t-shirts and joined in. Some went other ways into her 12-year-old son's room and beating him, humiliating him and also beating him with a handgun, while the others repeatedly raped the mother, forcing her to perform oral, anal, and at one time shoving the AR-15 assault rifle in the mother's anus. The 10 teens repeatedly raped her for hours, taking turns and most of them going back and doing it again. Then, at one point, one of the older teenagers ordered the mother and the son into the bathtub and forced the mother to get on her knees and perform oral sex on her 12-year-old son. The 12-year-old was crying and was beaten on the head with a handgun. The teenagers dropped a fan on him, they kicked his head, and they broke a glass bowl on the 12-year-old's head. While the teenagers laughed, they began to demand the mother to lie on her back in the bathtub and told the 12-year-old to get on top and have sex with his mother. The child could not stay on top of his mother and the teenagers kept beating both of them. The mother cried to her son to stay on top of her or they would kill them. The group of teenagers wanted to make sure there was no evidence, so they attempted to burn the child and the mother alive, but they did not have a lighter. At one point, one of the teenagers took a nose hair trimmer and stuck it up the mother's anus to get rid of evidence. Then one of the teenagers took a bar of soap and tried to wash out the evidence from the mother's vagina and anus. They forced the mother to wash with Clorox and hydrogen peroxide. They doused the mother and son's eyes with cleaning products. They forced them to drink it and forced Clorox inside the vagina of the mother to destroy any of the DNA left behind. Finally, the teenagers ripped the phone landline out of the wall so the police could not be called. The suspects left with her car, jewelry, a couple of $100, cell phones, movies and PlayStation consoles. Both victims sat in the fetal position in the bathtub for 2 hours after the attackers left, in fear that they could possibly still be in their apartment. Then, finally, in the dark of night, she and her son walked while bloody and in pain a mile to the hospital. Eventually, because of data found on clothing, used condoms and fingerprints left inside of the apartment, out of the 10 suspects, a young gang known as the Jitterbugs, 4 suspects were arrested: a 14-year-old Avion Lawson, 15-year-old Jakaris Taylor, 16-year-old Nathan Walker, and the ringleader, 18-year-old Tommy Poindexter. Because of the severity of the crime, all teenagers were charged as adults and hit with a 14-count indictment, including sexual battery, burglary, kidnapping, grand theft, and promoting sexual performance of a child. They also faced at least 11 life terms. The youngest suspect, 14-year-old Avion Lawson's DNA, was found in a condom and his fingerprints were on a wall at the crime scene. He admitted involvement and pleaded guilty to the charges and offered to testify against the 3 other suspects that pleaded not guilty. In the blame game that erupted after their arrests, Taylor claimed Poindexter, the oldest of the youths, was the ringleader. He claimed that Poindexter instructed the others to throw the woman and her son in a bathtub, hold them at gunpoint, doused them with household chemicals, raped the woman and forced the mother and son to have sex. Poindexter, in return, blamed Taylor. Before a not guilty plea, Taylor struck a deal with the state to plead guilty and cooperate in exchange for a 20-year sentence, but it fell apart when he refused to answer questions during depositions by the co-defendants' attorneys. Lawson's mother testified that her son grew up fatherless, and he also witnessed a traumatic event when his older sister fatally stabbed her boyfriend. All defendants made limited admissions to the attack, but also tried to deflect blame and point the finger against each other. Lawson claimed he raped the woman once, then left soon after. Poindexter's attorney said her client raped the woman, but didn't participate in any other crimes. Walker's attorney didn't acknowledge any guilt. The second youngest suspect, 15 years old Nathan Walker's mother, testified that her son dropped out of school after spending 3 years in 7th grade. Her family lived on food stamps. His mother also said that she herself was raped twice, at ages 7 and 12. She said that just days before the Dunbar attack, someone tried to rape her again, and her son Nathan came to her crying and said he wouldn't ever do that to anyone. Avion Lawson testified that the third defendant, 16 years old Jakaris Taylor, was the one that put the .45 caliber pistol to the 12-year-old boy's head and forced him to have sex with his mother. Lawson also stated that the fourth defendant, the oldest Tommy Poindexter, was the leader and orchestrator of the attack, telling the courtroom how the Poindexter was laughing, and how he was the one with the AR-15 assault rifle and who sodomized the mother by putting the assault rifle up her anus. He also told the courtroom that Tommy Poindexter threatened to kill him if he participated in raping the female victim and beating up her son.
Then, he says Tommy turned to him and literally put the gun to his head.
And then he said, "You better this hoe." So as he doing this and having the gun to me, that's when I did what he said.
So you raped her too?
Yes, sir.
What would you say to those people who just don't believe that under pressure and with tears in your eyes, you raped a woman?
Everybody's not the same.
And what did you do to her next?
After I got done, he told Nathan to get her from out of the bed, the sheets, and throw him in the bathroom inside the tub and run water on them.
Avion says he and Jakaris tried to quiet the woman's screaming son.
And Tommy told him to make the boy shut up. So he slammed the clock on his head, split his head.
And where was Tommy?
He told the boy to get up and take off his clothes and made him get in the tub with her. And that's when he told Jakaris to look for a lighter because he was throwing chemicals and things all on them. He said he was going to set them on fire. So Jakaris ran downstairs and he couldn't find a lighter.
The 35-year-old rape victim testified and briefly told the courtroom how she was brutally raped 2 to 3 times by the same individuals for 3 hours straight, and that she had not returned to the apartment since the attack. She also stated that she had started treatment for cervical cancer because of the cleaning chemicals that were put inside of her to destroy evidence, and her son's vision is not the same. She can no longer read and has to wear prescribed glasses for the rest of her life.
Some of them have sex with me 3 times. I was almost passing out. I was crying and praying at the same time.
The defense attorneys and 2 psychologists who testified for the 3 defendants argued that the youths were products of troubled upbringings. One was born cocaine addicted, another lost his father at a young age, and another was constantly beaten by his grandmother. Eventually, Nathan Walker and Jakaris Taylor both received life sentences. Earlier during sentencing, Taylor's younger brother erupted in the courtroom and was detained. Before Tommy Poindexter's sentence, he requested that he be handcuffed, because he did not know how he would react to the sentence given. He was given a life sentence with a mandatory minimum of 25 years.
Moments after Judge Krista Mark sentenced the 3 gang rape defendants to life in prison, Tommy Poindexter turned to the crowd and muttered an obscenity. Defendant Jakaris Taylor's younger brother hurled himself into the witness area, crying and beating on the door to the prisoner area. Deputies had to restrain him. The melee came shortly after 2 of the defendants made pleas for lesser sentences in the notorious gang rape of a 35-year-old woman and attack on her 12-year-old son.
The last defendant, Lawson, was given a 30-year sentence plus 10 years probation for his cooperation against the other defendants. The judge also ordered that, in fear of retaliation for Lawson testifying, that Lawson never be placed in the same prison as any of his co-defendants. In 2010, the Florida Supreme Court ruled that juveniles cannot be sentenced to life for any crime less than murder. A year later, Nathan Walker was resentenced to 60 years and 10 years probation. And in 2019, Jacari's Taylor was resentenced to 65 years.
Life sentence, I think one tells and gets like 75 years. And I'm in prison with one of them who got the life sentence. And Palm Beach County, especially Dunbar Village, T-Ave, a few other, like a lot of spots, Riviera, they stick together hard. And they're respected in prison, and they did not respect this. And they would beat the living shit out this dude, slice him, stab him, poison his food. I mean, he had it bad in prison. But a law was passed in Florida where if you're under the age of 18, when you commit your crime, they say your frontal brain isn't fully developed and you can't be sentenced to life. So I remember I'm in confinement and he's across the wing in confinement telling everybody, fuck you, I'm about to get 20 years, I'll be out this bitch before he's laughing about this shit, this sick demonic piece of shit. I remember within 3 weeks he comes back from going to outside court in Palm Beach and the judge was like, well, I can't give you a life sentence, so I'm going to give you 45 years. He came back looking sick, thought he was going to get over on the system.
The 2011 ruling did not benefit Poindexter because he was 18 at the time of the attack, and it did not benefit Lawson because he accepted a plea deal. Also, May of 2019, a 25-year-old Melvin Young was shot to death at Robinson Villa apartment complex in West Palm Beach, 10 minutes from Dunbar Village. During the trial in 2009, Lawson identified Young as the fifth attacker, but with no hardcore evidence, there was not enough to arrest him. If Young had been convicted, he would have been the youngest suspect, being 13 years old at the time of the crime. And also in 2021, Avon Lawson filed for an appeal of his sentence, but because certain court fees were not paid months later, his appeal was dismissed.